On November 13, 2022, a horrific crime shook the small college town of Moscow, Idaho, when four University of Idaho students, Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogans, Anna Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, were brutally stabbed to death in their off-campus rental home. The suspect, Bryan Kohberger, a doctoral candidate at nearby Washington State University, was arrested over a month later on December 30, 2022, in Monroe County, Pennsylvania, charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary. Kohberger's case has since captivated public attention, with newly released police documents and interviews revealing chilling details about the crime scene, particularly the gruesome blood evidence that became a focal point of the investigation. These details, combined with the investigative process and Kohberger's background, paint a haunting picture of a case that continues to raise questions about motive and the events leading up to the tragedy. The crime scene at 1122 King Road was described by responding officers as a place of unimaginable horror. When police first entered the house, it initially appeared typical of a college residence, cluttered but unremarkable. However, as they moved through the home, the extent of the violence became clear. Blood was smeared across walls, pooled on floors, and soaked into bedding, creating a scene so gruesome that some officers struggled to process what they were witnessing. In Anna Kernodle's second-floor bedroom, where her boyfriend Ethan Chapin was spending the night, investigators found Kernodle's body on the floor, bearing over 50 stab wounds, according to an autopsy report. Chapin's body was on the bed, his blood seeping through the interior wall and visibly dripping down the exterior of the house, an image that has become one of the most haunting aspects of the case. This blood trail, later confirmed to belong to Chapin, was so significant that it was captured in a photograph that has left a lasting impact on those familiar with the investigation. On the 3rd floor, the bodies of Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogan were found together in Mogan's bed. The scene was equally harrowing, with blood covering the bedding and surrounding area. Goncalves' injuries were particularly severe, with police reports noting that her face was disfigured due to the extent of the damage, including wounds described as having a horizontal pattern, the cause of which remains unclear. Kernodle's body showed signs of an intense struggle, with defensive knife wounds on her hands, indicating she fought back against her attacker. The brutality of the killings, coupled with the sheer volume of blood, left officers stunned. One investigator remarked that they were unprepared for the fact that the victims were 4 young, completely innocent kids, highlighting the emotional toll the scene took on seasoned law enforcement. The investigation that led to Kohberger's arrest was meticulous and relied heavily on forensic evidence. A critical piece of evidence was a tan leather carried by a knife sheath found on Mogan's bed, which bore Kohberger's DNA. This sheath became a cornerstone of the case, as the DNA did not match any profiles in the FBI database. Investigators turned to public ancestry websites to generate a list of potential suspects, a method that ultimately pointed them to Kohberger. After learning he had driven to his parents' home in Pennsylvania, authorities searched the family's trash and found additional DNA evidence linking him to the sheath. This forensic breakthrough was pivotal in securing his arrest, though it raised questions about how such a significant piece of evidence was left behind at the scene. Kohberger's background added layers of complexity to the case. As a criminology PhD student, he had a keen interest in the criminal mind, which some speculate may have influenced his actions. His behavior before the murders raised red flags in hindsight. A former classmate identified as Holly in a 2025 Dateline documentary described receiving an overly formal text from Kohberger after meeting him at a party, suggesting he was socially awkward but trying to connect. His browsing history uncovered during the investigation included searches for notorious serial killer Ted Bundy and the term University of Idaho murders, suggesting he may have been researching the very crime he would later commit. Additionally, police documents revealed that Kohberger's cell phone pinged near the victim's home nearly 24 times in the months prior, often during late night or early morning hours, hinting at possible reconnaissance. The weeks leading up to the murders were marked by unsettling incidents at the King Road house. Kaylee Goncalves reported seeing an unknown man staring at her while she was outside with her dog, an encounter that left her uneasy. Another time, the housemates returned home to find a door ajar with loose hinges, prompting them to arm themselves with golf clubs as they searched for an intruder. While these events were not definitively linked to Kohberger, they contributed to a growing sense of unease among the residents. One of the surviving roommates, Dylan Mortensen, told police she heard a scream from Goncalves on the night of the murders and saw a masked man in black leaving the house. Initially intoxicated and unsure of what she witnessed, Mortensen did not immediately call 911, a decision that has sparked public debate that was explained by her shock and disbelief. Kohberger's arrest and subsequent legal proceedings provided further insight into his demeanor. During his first interview with police, he engaged in small talk about baseball and the environment, but grew evasive when questioned about the murders, eventually invoking his Fifth Amendment right to request an attorney. Items seized from his Pennsylvania home, including medical gloves with trace amounts of blood, a flashlight, and clothing, raised questions about possible attempts to conceal evidence, though tests could not confirm the blood belonged to the victims. While incarcerated, Kohberger's habits such as excessive hand-washing and long showers annoyed fellow inmates who described him as intelligent but weird. At his sentencing on July 23, 2025, Kohberger declined to make a statement, leaving the motive for his actions a mystery. Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson suggested that Kohberger likely targeted one of the women on the third floor, possibly Goncalves or Mogan, but the presence of Kernadel and Chapin may have been unexpected. The release of over 300 police documents after Kohberger's sentencing shed light on the investigation's scope. Tips poured in from the public, including reports of a man resembling Kohberger seeking a black ski mask at a Walmart weeks before the murders, and sightings of a nervous-looking individual in the victim's neighborhood. While some leads, like those involving bar-goers or an Uber driver, proved fruitless, they underscored the community's desperation to find answers. The documents also highlighted the emotional weight of the case, with officers describing the victim's injuries as so severe that some were initially unrecognizable. The surviving roommates, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funker, were unharmed but deeply affected, with Funker recalling Goncalves' concerns about a possible stalker. The Bryan Kohberger case remains a stark reminder of the fragility of safety in seemingly idyllic settings. The gruesome details of the blood-soaked crime scene, coupled with the methodical investigation that led to Kohberger's conviction, have left an indelible mark on Moscow, Idaho, and beyond. While Kohberger will spend the rest of his life in prison without parole, the lack of a clear motive and the sealed nature of some case documents continue to fuel speculation. The tragedy has sparked broader conversations about campus safety, the use of genetic genealogy in investigations, and the psychological profile of those who commit such heinous acts. For the families and friends of Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernadel, and Ethan Chapin, the pain of their loss endures, amplified by the chilling details that continue to emerge.